Okay, so hopefully you guys are okay so far with the first part of the notes. If not, we will definitely talk about that tomorrow. But what I wanted to jump into is the idea of Venn diagrams. And like here's an example of a Venn diagram. You guys have probably seen these before. It's just a way to show like two different events and how they have things in common and how they may not have anything in common. Just to make sure we all understand notation. When we have A, U, B, that's the same thing, A union B. That's talking about A or B, and then A and B is the same thing as A upside down U, B. So those are just some special notations that you guys saw in the book, and we will talk more about those later. Now, let's look at some problems, and then you guys are going to try some too. So let's look at this one right here. It says we are given three circles that intersect each other at rock, country, and rap. And the first question is asking us how many total people are represented in this diagram. In order for us to do that, what we're going to do is we're just going to add up all these values, like the 18, the 11, the 7, the 24, the 8, the 1, and 17. And when we do that, we get 86 people are a part of this study. Okay? So now let's look at this next question. It's asking us how many people like country. So we're looking at this specific circle right here, this big circle. All these people like country music. So if I were to add up all those values together, I would be taking 8 plus 7 plus 1 plus 17 to get that total number. So I got 15 plus 1, which is 16 plus 7 is the same thing as, it looks like we got 33 people that like country music. All right, let's look at this next one. We're looking at rap. So in this case, we're taking 11, adding 7, plus 1, plus 24, and adding all those together. So when I add up that, that would be 33. No, sorry, what am I saying? It's 43. All right, let's look at this next one. It's saying that likes rap, country, and rock. Now in that case, it's just one intersection, which is just right there. Where all the circles intersect is where rap, country, and rock intersect. So that'd just be 7. And then the last one is just asking us, hey, how many people just like rock? So that means that they don't like rap and they don't like country. They just like rock, and that'll just be 18. So let's practice making one. We're going to look at the one on the next page. Number 1. It's asking you guys to, in a class of 50 students, 18 take chorus, 26 take band, and 2 take both chorus and band. I want you guys to draw a Venn diagram and show how many students in the class are not related, are not enrolled in either chorus or band. So I have 2 circles. One circle is going to represent band. Chorus is going to be the other, and my intersection is the one in between, where they like both chorus and band. Okay, so right now, I know 26 people like band, and 18 people like chorus, and 2 like both of them, or are in both of them. So how do I get those values? Well, what I did is I got 24 for this one. And what I did is I took 26, which was the total number of band people, and I subtracted 2, which got me the 24 there. Because when I add up this big circle, that 24 and 2 need to equal the number of people who like band. Now, if I look at chorus, how did I get that number? I just took the 18 that I know and 2 that like both, and that's how I got the 16 right there. So the question's asking us, how many students in the class are not enrolled in either chorus or band? Well, I know right now that if I add up all these circles, 24, 2, and 16 together, I know 42 people are enrolled in either band or chorus. If I wanted to figure out the number of people that aren't enrolled, what we'll do is we'll take the difference between the number of students, 50, and the 42 that are shown in this Venn diagram, which would leave 8 people not enrolled in either. Okay, I'm going to skip number 2. I'm going to ask you guys to do number 2, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. I want to jump to number 3 with you guys. So in this case, we are talking about dogs, cats, and fish. A veterinarian surveys 26 of his patrons. He discovers that 14 have dogs, 10 have cats, and 5 have fish. 5 have dogs or cats, 3 have dogs and fish, and 1 has a cat and a fish. If no one has 3 kinds of pets, how many patrons have none of these pets? So right now, I'm just filling in the information that I know. I know right now that there's 14 dogs, 10 cats, and 5 fish. Now I also know, and when I draw these lines, what that's showing is the intersection between dogs and cats, or dogs and fish. Dogs and cats is 4, and cats and fish is 1. So I'm going to put that information in here because I also know that no one has all 3 kinds, and the 3 intersections would be 0. So I know right now 4 people like cats and dogs, 1 likes cats and fish, and 3 of them like dogs and fish. So now, what I want to do is I want to figure out how many people just like cats. So when I look at this big circle right here, that total needs to equal 10. So if I take the 10 minus the 4 that I know, minus the 0 that don't like all 3 of them, minus the 1 that likes cats and fish, that would give me 5 total. If I look at the fish, I know that if I look at this big circle right here, my sum should equal 5. So what I'm going to do is take the 3, the 0, and the 1 away from that 5 just to figure out how many people just have fish, which is just 1 person overall. The last one we're looking at is dogs. So right now, I know there's 14 people overall that like dogs. So I'm going to take that 14 dogs. I'm going to subtract the 4 that like cats and dogs, the 0 that like all 3, and I'm also going to subtract the 3 from that, which just leaves me with 7 that just like dogs. Now the question is, how many patrons have none of these pets? So what we're going to do is I know overall that there's 26 patrons overall. Okay? And what I'm going to do is take each of these values. I'm going to take the 7, the 4, the 5, the 3, the 0, the 1, and the 1, and subtract them from the 26 patrons overall. And what I find out is that 5 have none of these pets. Okay? I'm going to do number 4 with you guys because it's slightly different. In this case, we're talking about 30 students. 16 students say that they want to take French, 16 want to take Spanish, and 11 want to take Latin. 5 say that they want to take both French and Latin, and of these, 3 also wanted to take Spanish as well. 5 want only Latin, and 8 only want Spanish. How many students want Latin? So we're going to answer all those questions here. So we made 3 diagrams, 3 circles. 1 represents French, 1 represents Spanish, 1 circle represents Latin. So right now, I know that the totals for French is 16, the totals for Spanish is 16, and the totals for Latin is 11. Now, this is what I know, is that 5 say they want to take both French and Latin. So the intersection between French and Latin should be 5. Okay? I also know that 5 want only Latin. Only means that it's going to be kind of on its own, which is 5. And then Spanish is 8. Now what I want to do next is focus on this next part right here. That 5 say they want to take both French and Latin, and of these 3 wanted to take Spanish as well. So that 3 represents that they want to take all 3. That's what that's saying, is that they want to take all 3 languages. Okay, so that's how I get 3 right there. Now, if I look at this intersection right here, I know that right here, this little overlap needs to equal 5. So if I take that 5 and subtract the 3, that's how I get that 2 right there. The 5 is, we got all that stuff from before. So now what we want to do is figure out what each circle is. So in this case, we had the 2, we had the 3, we had the 5, we had the 11, so I want to figure out what is that value right there. So if I take 11 minus 5 minus 2 minus 3, that gets me the 1 to that intersection right there. So now, what we're trying to do is figure out the number of Spanish people right here. Okay? On that like French and Spanish. So I'm taking the 16, I'm going to subtract the 8, the 1, and the 3 to get that value right there, which is 4. And then the last part, once I know all this, okay, I know I want to figure out how many people just like French only. So I'm going to take the 16, subtract the 4, the 3, and the 2, and I end up with 7. Okay, so that's what your Venn diagram should look like. Now, we've got to answer these questions. So how many students want Spanish and Latin? Spanish and Latin. So when I look at just Spanish and Latin, what I'm looking at is where they intersect each other, which is right here. So 3 plus 1, because we got to count these 3 because they do like Spanish and Latin. 3 plus 1 gets me the 4 that like Spanish and Latin. The next one's asking us to look at Spanish and French, which is this intersection right here. So I have 4 plus 3, which gets me 7. The next one is just French only, which is by itself, that's 7. And then the last one is French also want Spanish. Okay? So I mean, it's the same question as we had before. 4 and 3 would equal 7. Hopefully this helps. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. I do want you guys to try to finish the rest of these, and we will definitely focus on this more tomorrow. Thanks, guys.